What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is mostlydarius if you're new here, and if you are a returning subscriber, then thank you for clicking this video and continuing to support the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Before I get started, make sure you guys follow me on TikTok and Instagram at mostlydarius. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I upload a new video. And I don't like to spend too much time on my intro, so let's get started. So, as you guys can tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about the America's Next Top Model documentary that has been released on Netflix. And I just have so many thoughts. Obviously, I have so many thoughts. I finally watched the documentary, and it's clear to me that this story is bigger than just Tyra Banks. I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts on Janice Dickinson, the producers, the contracts that these ladies had to sign, Shandi, Danny's story. I'm going to be talking about all of the things, and we're definitely going to be talking about how the reality TV machine has created this entire mess. We're also going to be talking about whether we even need a 25th season of America's Next Top Model. Let's talk about harm. Let's talk about accountability. You know what I mean? I finally watched a documentary, and, multiple things can be true. I, for one, believe Tyra caused harm and she kept going. So, therefore, my grace stopped for Tyra. But she was also an employee and a black woman in a racist and sexist industry. I mean, let's be real, y'all. We all know that the entertainment business is racist, sexist, all of the things, very misogynistic, you know what I mean? She wasn't the architect of the entire operation. So I definitely want us to remember that as we continue to watch this video. Because yes, we're gonna hold Tyra accountable, but we need to get across the entire spectrum before we just focus on one person. Of course, I'm gonna be talking about the Jays as well, but I definitely want to hone in on why focusing only on Tyra is going to let the bigger machine slide. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's me, Darius. I'm editing right now, and I want to give a warning or like a disclaimer, just that I'm going to be saying Miss J and J Alexander because my silly ass forgot that J Emmanuel is J Emmanuel's name, and I'm usually used to calling Miss J Miss J. So I'll put pictures of both of them on the screen so that you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. But I definitely wanted to let you know before the video continues so that you guys are not confused when you hear me say Miss J and J Alexander. When I say J Alexander, I'm talking about J Emmanuel. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you. Okay, boom. So we can just get started talking about episode one. One thing I thought about when I was watching episode one, they really gave us a slow burn into what we were getting into. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I first was watching it, I was like, okay, I kind of knew some of this stuff, and this is sounding like regurgitated talking points. And then something in me was like, the hype that the documentary is getting is way bigger than what I'm seeing here on the first episode. So the producers definitely eased us into what we were, gonna get later on in the show. But one thing that really stuck out to me in that first episode was Janice Dickinson. Just a nasty, vile, cruel human being. I mean, the stuff that she was saying to those ladies, I mean, it was just disgusting. Obviously, I feel like the same stuff that Janice was telling those girls was stuff that she was told when she was growing up in the modeling industry. Because again, like I said about Tyra, that industry that they were in was very misogynistic, racist, and sexist. But if we talk about Janice, we can take out the racism part because I'm not really sure if Janice is anything except white. Janice Dickinson is another victim, okay? Yes, she was a villain, but she is also another victim. But to see her perpetuate those same stereotypes to other girls in the industry is, again, like I lost my grace for Tyra, I lost my grace for Janice as well, because at the end of the day, you're upholding everything that you had done to you. So how could I have any grace for you? And see, the thing with Tyra was, Tyra, I felt like Tyra was more blunt. I didn't feel like Tyra was as vile as Janice, although they both were wrong. I think that Janice's comments just likely reflects what the industry actually is. And I think that as much as we love reality TV, this is literal reality. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that if we talking about reality TV, this is reality. The stuff that Janice was saying, could you imagine? This is the stuff that they say that's not being filmed. They probably say worse. Okay, I'm just letting y'all know. We want to love reality TV so much until we start getting the real reality of the world we live in. And I think that that's something that could be said about this show and a bunch of other shows that we love to watch on TV. One of my favorite examples of real reality TV is the last season of Real Housewives of New York. I want to say the last season with like Ramona, Luann, Ebony, and all of that stuff that was happening. I was like, you know what? I didn't agree with it, but that is the reality. And if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to go on a tangent really quick. In Real Housewives of New York, this was the pandemic when they had their last season of all the OGs that were on the show. There was a lot of racism going on, okay? This was during the pandemic, and Ebony K. Williams was the only black woman on the cast, alongside another lady named Bershawn, but Bershawn wasn't a full-time cast member. She was just a friend of, which means she wasn't in the opening credits. You know what I mean? And so what I'm bringing that show up to say is, during the pandemic, it was a lot of heavy Black Lives Matter movement. You guys know the George Floyd thing happened on top of the pandemic. It was a lot going on in the world. And when I binged that season recently, I was like, I don't like how things are happening, but this is reality. This is reality TV. And we don't want to platform racist people. However, what I appreciated about the show was that it showed us exactly how people really act in real life. And so I don't really like Janice Dickinson. I feel like a lot of people are letting her slide. I don't see enough people dragging her. So I'm gonna bring that up and say I feel like Janice Dickinson is fucking vile. Now let's talk about Tyra being the face of America's Next Top Model. When I say that, I'm saying that to say that Tyra is literally just the face. And what that means is there are people above Tyra, aka Ken Mock. You know, yes, Tyra and Ken were kind of like, you know, how can I say this? They were like partners, but at the end of the day, UPN is above both of them. UPN has funded Tyra, but somebody funded UPN to be able to run this show on their network. You get what I mean? And so that's why when I say we keep focusing on Tyra instead of the bigger machine, we need to be dragging the companies that allow this stuff to be even aired. Tyra's intention to me was not to have it become like this whole like misogynistic, like mean spirited, like this mean spirited, like bullying environment. I really truly don't feel like that was her intention. But again, my grace stops for Tyra because once it did become that, instead of her stopping and bowing out, she decided to go on a couple more seasons. And what's crazy for me is that this show continued on for more than 10 seasons. So yeah, at that point, like Tyra should have definitely bowed out. But you know what really pissed me off in episode 1 was when I saw them label Ebony difficult to work with. I was so pissed. First of all, Ebony is beautiful. Let's be clear on that. I was so pissed because I felt like, you know, when you grow up and you hear about certain things and stereotypes, you know, there's always been this thing about, oh, black women are difficult to work with. Black women are difficult to work with. But to like watch this documentary and see in real time how Ebony was acting in the situations they were putting her in, and then they label her difficult to work with. And it's like, no, y'all were making things difficult for Ebony to work through. She's not difficult to work with. Y'all are making it difficult for her to work. And that pissed me off so much because it was like Tyra telling her that. I don't think Tyra was labeling her that. I think she was letting her know that people are going to label her that. But at the end of the day, it's like Tyra, like, maybe you should like use your platform to let that be known that she's not difficult to work with. And maybe you should use your platform to like let it be known that, hey, I understand what Ebony's going through because I too am a black woman. But then we got to get into the nuances of blackness. And see, yes, Tyra is a black woman in the industry, but the reason she was even able to be the face of this show was because Tyra was not a darker skinned black woman, if that makes sense to you guys. If that doesn't make sense to you, I don't know what to do for you here. This may not be the video for you. But let me just hone in more on that topic. The fact that Tyra was able to do what she did speaks on how colorism works in the black community and just around the world. Ebony being labeled difficult to work with after they call her Ashley is just sick to me. Like y'all called this girl Ashley, then she fixed the ashiness. Y'all found another thing to complain about. Then she fixed that. Y'all found another thing to complain about. At what point do we stop moving the line? Why is the line continuing to move for people that look like Ebony? But y'all letting all these other girls come up in here and slide through the pain. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like Ebony is the only person that experienced harm, but it definitely hits different when a person like Ebony is experiencing harm when we're seeing her being put in harmful situations. You know what I mean? And that's why I struggle to have grace with Tyra. Although I understand that Tyra was doing a job, Tyra was hired to do a job. And you know, a lot of times when and this goes back to it, right? Because a lot of times when black women do refuse to do what Tyra was doing in the industry, then Tyra would have probably got labeled difficult to work with. And then Tyra would have been, you know, it's always gonna be like, how do I explain it? Because I hope I'm making sense to y'all. It's always like a pattern, it's always a cycle. So let me play fake devil's advocate, right? Because there was a point when I saw Tyra trying to put her foot down to Janice and say, you know, you're the reason that a lot of girls are bending over, throwing up what they ate, right? Okay, I give Tyra her little tens for that, right? But the thing about it is, Tyra could only go so far with that kind of rhetoric, I feel. Like, I feel like there would have gotten to a point if Tyra would have really honed in on the blackness of it all and really stood 10 toes down as a black woman. I really feel like the show would not have lasted as long as it, you know, as it did, because they would have been like, okay, Tyra, like, you too real. But that's the thing, Tyra. You wasn't being too real. You wasn't being real. So, you know, that's how I felt about episode 1. Like when I was watching episode 1, I was not really trying to go too hard on Tyra because I'm like, I understand that Tyra is just, again, the face. She's not the like one that greenlit the show. She's not the one putting all the money into the girls. She's not the one putting all the cash trips together and all this stuff, right? I get it. But I my grace really ran low for Tyra. The more I read, like, it was a point where I felt like she realized what this was doing to the girls, and she kept it going. And I tried to understand a little bit because there was this one point where Jay Alexander, Miss J, and Tyra basically said that they didn't know a lot of stuff that was happening with the girls once they left the scene, which kind of made a little bit of sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Let's think about it. If I'm working a 9 to 5, I don't know what's going on at work if I clock out of work, if people not calling me and telling me what's going on outside of work. And what it sounded like to me was, I don't think that Tyra, the Jays, the other judges knew everything that was happening once they left. But the thing is, once they found out, what did they do? What did they do? Okay, boom. So we can get into episode 2 because this is where we start to get more into like the contracts of it all, the way Ken Mock played a part of it all, and just like the conscious harm that was going on. So, this is where it truly got sick for me. When I heard about what Shandi went through, what I got from what Ken Mock was saying was that terms and conditions overruled humanity. Like when it came down to this Shandi situation, let's think about it. Shandi is not a dark-skinned black woman like Ebony, right? So there's a little bit more grace to be given to people like her in the world that we live in, right? Let's be real. Let's be real. Shandi's a white woman. She's gonna be given more grace in the world than somebody that looks like Ebony. Don't get mad at me, get mad at history. Don't get mad at me, get mad at the world we live in. This is the truth. This is when I knew this show was sick. So if you guys didn't watch the documentary, just to give you guys some insight, Shandi was another girl that was trying to make it on the show, and she ended up getting drunk on the show, and she had sex with some guy, and she said that she didn't even know what happened to her until she woke up the next day. And the thing about this is, like, she got drunk, exploited, and then she was pushed into doing emotional scenes, like damn near right after. Not to mention, she had a boyfriend at the time. And y'all know how reality TV is now. Like when something happens on reality TV, yes, it's blown out of proportion. It's OD, like it's out of this world. Like Love Island is a prime example of how big reality TV has grown. Because Love Island is a reflection of how reality TV used to be back in the day before streaming came out. Yes, you could catch up on Love Island after. In a way, it was kind of like a live watch. With America's Next Top Model and the era that America's Next Top Model came out in, that was like, okay, prime time television. Like that, what that means is at 8 o'clock every night on whatever day this show came out, the entire world was watching it. And it was a little bit different because there wasn't really any such thing as like catching up or binging the show right after, if that makes sense. This was like the whole entire world was sitting down watching this show at one time, and it ended at the same time for everybody. So at that point, the fucking like the reactions at that point were massive. Shandi literally could not walk down the street without being talked about by people because she was that girl on TV that cheated on her boyfriend. And so what pissed me off about Shandi's situation was that the producers knew it was wrong and they apologized. And that's why when I watch certain reality shows, at a point, I stopped paying attention to the cast and I start paying attention to how the show is being produced. Because without the producers, we wouldn't have a show. And I think that that goes unnoticed a lot of times when we talk about reality television, and it's so annoying. That's really my biggest problem with like Real Housewives of Potomac. I feel like a lot of these reality TV shows do not do what they need to do as far as production. I feel like people need to be put in their place. But guess what? They are also hired. They also have a job to do because guess what? The company funds them to do this job. Like, I don't understand what we don't understand. Like, this is so much bigger than what we even can imagine. Like, this goes beyond just America's Next Top Model. But because we're talking about America's Next Top Model right now, I'm going to keep it here before I start going on tangents because I have so many different patterns and comparisons that I just don't think we can get to in this video right now. My emotional reaction to Shandi going through what she went through was like, I can't believe this. But then I was like, you know what? Yes, I can believe this because again, this is a reality show and things like this happen in reality. Things like what happened to Shandi happened in reality. And it's crazy how it was documented and filmed and nothing was really done about it. Nothing was done about it. And I wonder where that dude that did that to her is these days. I really wonder where that guy is. I really do. I really wonder. But another thing that happened in episode 2 that really kind of stuck with me was when Tyra was walking out on the streets with the Jays. And this is when they knew the show was getting big. And the Jays will be recognized before Tyra. And that stuck with me because I'm like, that just goes to show the impact that queer people have in the world. Like, the fact that the Jays were getting noticed before Tyra, they thought Tyra was Beyonce. That's also very indicative of the world that we were in and still are in, that they thought Tyra was Beyonce when Tyra and Beyonce don't look nothing alike, except they might be a little light-skinned. That's about it. But that, again, is so reflective of the time that this show came out in. Like, the fact that stuff like that was happening, it just shows you like everything that was happening on this show, it was wrong as hell. It was wrong as hell, but it was the time that we were in, and we were not as aware. I mean, there were people that were aware, don't get me wrong, but as far as the mainstream media goes, people weren't aware that colorism was a thing. I mean, just look at the casting from back in the day. Look at the stereotypes. Look at the things that money were able to be put into. So I definitely wanted to point that out. I found that crazy. And I also found that funny because, it just shows you again how much, visibility that queer people can get and give, but then it's just like we're disposable. We'll get to that later when we talk about when the Jays got fired. But the girls were so young. That's another thing that really stuck with me during episode 2. It was like, damn, like these girls were young. I'm 24 years old to give you guys some context. So they were so young. I couldn't imagine. And I know, and I'm so aware of certain things right now. And back in the day, a lot of people were not aware of things. And I'm kind of grateful that I grew up in the era that I grew up in because, people like to call this the woke era. But goddamn, thank God, because I would hate to be walking around as ignorant as they were back in the day. Like, that was some sickness, okay? And I really want to focus on Danielle real quick. Danny was so beautiful. She is literally ahead of her time. Like, the way she stood 10 toes down on certain things, like, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see how I don't think Danny really changed. I think Danny knew her worth. And Danny really stood firm in her beauty and her boundaries. If I'm not mistaken, Danny was the one with the gap. And she was like, girl, I'm not closing this gap. And she even looked at one of the other girls when something happened to them. She was like, are y'all sure that she was like, are you sure you good? Like, don't you're not just saying you good because they saying to tell you good, right? You actually good. And stuff like that. Like, I really loved Danny's story. Like, Danny really was being so real. And honestly, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. Honestly, all of these girls were so beautiful. And I feel like if there's gonna be a cycle 25, there needs to be something where there's no winner, that we let all them girls that y'all did wrong come back on this show and get the model moment they was looking for. We're in an all-inclusive world now. It's so sick to me how certain people were not able to get opportunities back then because of certain stupid shit like their skin color or their gap. Like, what the yo? To make somebody close their gap is sick. It plays on your mental, and it makes people insecure when you have these people that have all this money and this power to put you in a life situation that you really want to be in, when they talk down to you like this and tell you that you're not beautiful enough. And that's crazy. And that's why I'm so big on not calling people ugly and not making fun of people's appearances, because you can talk about a person all you want. You can talk about what they do. You can talk about how they behave, all of the things. You can talk about that. But once you start getting into talking about how people look, that's where I have to look at you like you are less than intelligent, because I always tell people your life can change in 5 minutes. You literally can go outside, get in your car, go to the grocery store, get into a bad accident. And next thing you know, your whole face is rearranged. Now people calling you ugly. Now people calling you ugly. You see how that works? You see how we should stop talking about how people look, because you never know what's going to happen to you. You never know what's going to happen to you. So the fact that they were trying to make that girl close her gap, the fact that they were cutting people's hair off, telling people they was too fat, like, oh my God. Back to Janice Dickinson real quick. Janice Dickinson was literally telling girls, Janice Dickinson, you would be as skinny as this banana, and Janice Dickinson would tell you that you were too fat. If that's not insane, I don't know what is. Like, if that's not fucking fat phobia, I don't even know what. Like, that's beyond fat phobia. I don't even know what to call. That's just sick. And you know what? What I'll say about Janice Dickinson real quick, I heard from a friend, and I'm not sure how true this is, that Janice Dickinson was on hardcore drugs when she was filming this show, and she even wrote a book. And apparently that book funded her drug habit. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, it would make all the sense as to why she had the mindset she had. Let's talk about cycles. Hello. Janice Dickinson was so nasty and so vile to those girls. But guess what? The fact that if she was on drugs, then obviously as a model, we all know the modeling industry is cutthroat. So that is very telling. That's very telling. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Let's go back to Danny real quick. The fact that we heard Tyra like apologize to Danny and say like, oh, hindsight is 2020. And I felt like Tyra apologizing to Danny and letting us know that hindsight is 2020 is really powerful, because it kind of makes you want to like narrow this down to everybody involved was human beings. But I feel like, at what point did it get to a point? You know what I mean? Like, I hear Tyra, I understand, and I appreciate the apology that she gave Danny, but I feel like, at what point did it get to a point for you, babe? Like, but I'll give Tyra her little tens with that too. Hindsight is definitely 2020. Hindsight is definitely 2020 for all of us. I'll give her that, but I'm struggling to have so much grace for Tyra. I really am struggling to have grace for her. As much as I understand that it's bigger than her, I do struggle with having grace for her. I do, because it's like you were conscious of this. And it's like at one point, I feel like Tyra had to numb herself during the filming of this show in order to continue doing it. Because there's no way that she, like when she went home, I can't imagine a smile on her face, knowing that she was doing this to these women. But you know what they say, money talks, and it was sure enough talking to Tyra. That's why she kept doing what she was doing. So I know a lot of you guys see those memes where it's like, I just told Tyra my mom died, and now I gotta go do a photo shoot in like the cemetery, right? Ken Mock called this shoot that happened to one of these girls on this show. This girl said that her mom was paralyzed from the neck down, and they ended up having to do like this violence photo shoot. Ken Mock ended up saying that that was an idiot mistake. We had Jay Alexander admit that the ethnicity blackface photo shoot was a big mistake. Like the fact that this was like they were doing blackface. They were literally doing blackface. And Jay Alexander at that time, he kind of knew. He was saying like mentally, there was something about this that didn't sit right with him. But that's where my title of my video comes from. It's like, this is really bigger than Tyra, because then you got to think about these judges like Jay Alexander, who knew that this stuff was wrong too, and he continued to stay and work. And yes, we're gonna talk about how he did try to like exit the show, but you like I can't just pile all on Tyra. I can't, because look at who she was with. She wasn't doing this shit alone. She was not doing this alone. So I think it's important for us to recognize that. I think it's important for us to talk about that. Everybody want to keep going off on Tyra. We got to talk about everybody across the board. That was sick. We got to hear him admit that he felt like that was wrong, and he continued to do it. Like, come on, y'all. Come on. Like, let's talk about it. You know, I just feel like, you know, we got to name everybody. Ken, Miss J, Janice, the producers, the UPN network, and most importantly, the fashion industry, the modeling industry to be specific. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's really talk about it. You know, like production. Oh my God, production. Producers really drive storylines, and they engineer harm. They really create a lot of bullshit. Okay, I feel like a lot of stuff that happened on this show, it was producers. It was producers. It was like, again, it's bigger than Tyra. It was producers. It was producers trying to make sure that they could put on the best show possible for the viewers at the time. And that just is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like Tyra, she ended up taking accountability and she took some responsibility, but it wasn't the full, you know, I did this and I was wrong. It wasn't in the way we wanted her to take it, because I truly believe somewhere in Tyra's head, she feels like she knows that this is bigger than her. So she doesn't want to just be the only one to have to take all the heat. And that's why she's not offering the apology that we're looking for. Like, we want Tyra to be like, you know what? I was wrong. I take accountability. But she's, in her mind, I feel like she's like, this wasn't all me, and I'm not taking all the accountability. I really feel like that's how she feels. Instead, you know, instead of Tyra doing that, we got to share, soften blame on everyone else, including herself, of course. But she definitely made sure to let us know, like, yeah, I did this, but look around at everybody else. And I got to be honest with you, I can understand why she's doing it. But it just doesn't change the fact that what happened, and she was a part of it. And so for that, again, struggling to give Tyra grace. Struggling to give Tyra grace. She's the victim and the villain. It's the truth. It's the truth. Okay, so now we can get into episode 3. This is when Tyra truly started to scare me. Like, I felt like Tyra, when she was asked about the Jays, like her whole energy just shifts. Like, I'm questioning all of the legal advice, the anger, the control. Like, why is Miss J scared to speak? Why is Jay Alexander scared to speak? Even more importantly, because I can understand why a person like Miss J is scared to speak. Like, let's think about Miss J. They are dark-skinned, queer, not society's pig. You get what I'm saying? Jay Alexander has more privilege than Miss J, and arguably more privilege than Tyra. Because he's the man. Tyra's a woman, a black woman. Jay Alexander is not white, but he's not black either. And he's also a man, which adds on to the point where that can be argued that he has a little more power than Tyra. I just think that because, again, Tyra was like the actual face. And also, Jay Alexander is queer. The lines got a little blurred. And that's when it comes to the point where it's like they kind of all needed each other. And I think that that's another thing that's important to recognize. They really all needed each other. And so I feel like when Jay Alexander finally said he wanted to leave the show, and he told Tyra, the fact that she took 3 days to respond, and then it felt like this big energy shift, it was like, okay, I felt like Tyra really started treating this show like straight up business. Like there was no way she had feelings during this show. I just can't see it. Like, and it's like her heart really left a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like in hindsight, this show really sucked. There was no long-term career for the girls. Like it mainly showed how disposable everybody is in the modeling industry, like how there's no sustainable careers in that. I think if America's Next Top Model did anything for us, it showed us how people operate in that entertainment business. Like, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I think that a lot of us should have watched that show and never wanted to be in the business ever in our life. I'm gonna be honest. That was crazy because you got to think about it. Modeling, and we're gonna talk about this at the end when I give you guys my thoughts about Cycle 25. But like, if we want to be honest, like modeling should not even exist as a career. I feel like because it's very niche. It's way too niche to be something that's supposed to be for everybody. You know. And I don't know if it was supposed to be for everybody back then, but damn it, they made these girls feel like it when they cast them on this show. They made them feel like they had a chance. So it's very contradictory. The show really sucked in hindsight. You know, there was no long-term career for the girls. You know, I just can't understand how the girls were treated differently after coming off the show. Like when I seen the girls talk about how they could not get any jobs after being on America's Next Top Model, it truly didn't make any sense to me because my thing is, would that not be more of a reason to hire a girl to be a model after they get all this visibility from being on a television show? They're gonna gain a fan base. So obviously, if you hire this girl to walk in your runway show, she's gonna have a lot of eyes on your brand. I don't understand how the industry works back there. I still don't get it. How would you not hire somebody that was on America's Next Top Model because they were on America's Next Top Model? Like that, it makes no sense to me. But you know what's so crazy? Like again, going back to Danielle, super gorgeous girl. The fact that she wasn't able to get any work was just sick. And what was even sicker was Tyra knew that Danny, for example, wasn't getting any help, and she knew that Danielle was struggling because she was on the show, and she still didn't help her. She didn't help these girls. She didn't use her resources. Like that's my thing with Tyra. It's like I feel like if there was a part of Tyra that didn't want to help the girls, and I think this is a Sagittarius woman thing. I think that we see it, and I hate to do this because I love Nicki Minaj growing up, and I like Taylor Swift a lot. But I think that it's this thing with Sagittarius women where it's like they don't want to lend their resources to other women in fear that that woman might take their position. I really feel like that became a thing with Tyra. I feel like she was like, you know what? I'm not going to give these girls the resources that I do have because to me, it would just make sense for Tyra to be putting these girls on. Like, you know, even if they didn't get contracts and anything after the show, it would just make sense to me. Like, why would you not extend those resources to the girls? And when I speak on Sagittarius women, I brought up Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift to say that because we all know that Nicki Minaj is the biggest female rapper of all time. And everybody talks about how Nicki and the other female rappers, like there's always like a thing going on and like she's always gonna be the queen. And then when it comes to Taylor Swift is obviously one of the biggest pop stars in our world. You know, everybody always talk about how when a girl drops something, like Charlie XCX, for example, or Billie Eilish, when they drop something, Taylor's gonna drop a new version just so she can stay on top because she doesn't want to like, and it's like, they'll lend you their resources in the way that they want to. For example, we have seen Nicki Minaj collaborate with other female rappers, you know, but it's like, that's about it. And it's not that they have to do any of these things, don't get me wrong, but it's a very calculated decision. Like Taylor Swift bringing Charlie XCX on tour, and then we finding out other shady stuff happening after, and then we want to get mad that Charlie XCX wrote Sympathy is a Knife. And I'm just giving little examples just to show you guys where my brain is at with Tyra, because Tyra is also a Sagittarius woman, and we've never seen a girl like Tyra, except for like Naomi Campbell or like Iman, who Danielle apparently was living with in a modeling house. And if you guys don't know who Iman is, she was a famous supermodel who was married to David Bowie. And the thing about that is, the fact that she was living with Danielle, who was also on America's Next Top Model, and Danielle asked her, like, why am I not getting booked for anything? And Iman told her, she was like, girl, I asked them, and they said it's because you was on that show. And Tyra knew these things were happening and did not extend any resources. That's sick to me. Another thing that pissed me off with Tyra was she had a whole talk show. So girl, you could have gave up on America's Next Top Model and you could have just did the talk show. But that was the greed in you that would not let you. You wanted all the money. You wanted all the resources. You wanted it all for yourself. Which, I don't know Tyra's story. I don't like that the producers did not give us a good background on Tyra's story because we don't know where she came from. We don't know her story. And remember when she yelled at Tiffany, the girl that was deemed to be too ghetto and too hood for the show? When she yelled at Tiffany, she was like, you don't know where I've come from. You don't know my story. Da da da. I feel like what this docuseries lacked was giving us Tyra's background. I feel like they could have done a good job on letting us know how Tyra got into the industry and why she got the career she got. Because to us, it's looking like Tyra was just a mean ass girl. That's really what it started looking like to us. It just looked like she was a mean girl. So I really feel like there was a lack of letting us know where she came from. I feel like they could have definitely done a better job with that. One of the more lighthearted parts of the show was the girl Whitney. She was a model and she is beautiful too. Like, oh my God, plus size girls. Like, come on. Like, the fact that she was considered to be like this big, humongous thing back in there, like, they act like Whitney was just so big. Like, I just, she apparently started an ice cream shop. And if you watch the documentary, you know, Tyra, she lives in Australia where she started an ice cream shop. And Whitney's like, she copied me. I started the ice cream shop first. What the fuck? Like, that was actually funny. Back to Shandi, the girl that was exploited and drunk on the show and had sex on the show. She literally was on Tyra's talk show and she told Tyra that she hadn't watched the footage of what happened to her on television because she didn't want to relive it. And, you know, she told Tyra this, and Tyra still decided to show the sex scene in front of her in the world and the audience after she told her that she didn't want to see it. And then people want to sit here and defend Tyra to the T. Yes, Tyra was a victim, but then it's stuff like this that is like, it gets to a point like, girl, she just told you that she didn't want to see it. Like, as a woman, you know, I would say as a human being, you know, you should know what this feels like. But as a woman, Tyra, this girl told you she didn't want this to be shown. Like, she didn't want to discuss it, and you decided to show it anyway. You act like she didn't tell you this. Like, did you not have control over your own talk show? Like, I can give you grace with the America's Next Top Model thing. That's something you don't have full control over because you're not the network boss, as we got to see you were replaced eventually, right? You know, whatever. What's crazy is this was your talk show. You did not have to do this. You did not have to do that to that girl, but you did it anyway. And that's so crazy. Like, Tyra had a talk show. She had a talk show, and then she had a goddamn show which it was terrorizing people on the show. Like, oh my God, there's literally no excuse for what she did to Shandi. That was pure exploitation to the fullest potential. Like, that was disgusting. Whew, I'm getting really aggravated just talking about it because, like, for people out there that have survived sexual assault and like that have gone through things like sexual harassment and stuff like that, like, y'all know how hard it is to talk about this. And people that don't experience, I don't know what Tyra's experienced. I'm not saying she has or hasn't experienced that, but like, for you to still show that after that girl just told you what happened to her, that says a lot about you. That says a lot about you, Tyra. It really does. And again, that's why my grace for Tyra had went away so long ago. Because it's like, you knew what you were doing at one point. Like, I don't, you knew what you were doing. That's just that. I want to talk about Tyra and the Jays, that what that relationship was like, because I really was sad about Miss J's health. Like, I could not believe that Tyra did not even visit them and like send any flowers or anything. It was just like she didn't even know Miss J. And to me, that's really sick. Like, you don't spend all your, and it was like, that's why I said her heart had been out of that show. Like, she numbed herself. Like, there's no way that she was like truly human during the filming of this show after Jay Alexander said he wanted to leave. And like, the way that she just handled them, I really didn't like it. And you know, I feel like there was a thing where it was like, okay, I can give Tyra this much. At the end of the day, because there came a time where the Jays ended up having to get fired, right? And so the thing is, you know, this is when I understand Tyra, and this is when I understand the fact that she's a victim when she has to fire Miss J and Jay Alexander. And Nigel. I get it. I get that she doesn't have the control, she doesn't have the power. And that's what I wanted to explain to you guys in this video. I wanted to make it clear that it's not all just Tyra. Because when the Jays got fired, her reaction was just, the way she handled it was so cutthroat. It was so business. It wasn't about them being her friends anymore. It was like, you know what we always hear, like, there's no feelings in business. And you know, I will give this much to Tyra. Like, you know, guys, we gotta also think about, she's an employee, right? How would it be if we worked at a job and something happened to our best friends and we're getting paid, and then we're hearing something's happening where they got to get fired? Are you going to quit your job because your friend just got fired, or are you going to stay at this job because you're getting paid and you have to feed your family too? Right? On one hand, there's that. But on another hand, it's like, you didn't even, the way she handled that situation is like, why didn't you give them a call? Why didn't you talk to them? The fact that Miss J said that they still haven't talked to Tyra yet. The fact that they even included it yet means that there's some hope in their mind that they're gonna talk to Tyra, but it just goes to show the relationship. And I talked about this in my last video when I talked about Jayla Mina from Baddies. You guys might not know who that is, but she's another reality star. She had a lot of homophobic remarks to spew out in the air. But I was talking about the relationship between straight women and queer people and queer men, specifically gay men. I was like, there's something there. Like, Tyra, these people helped you. They helped your show. Like I said earlier in the video, there was a point where the Jays would get recognized before Tyra. So for Tyra to like send Miss J some flowers on their birthday, to not even contact Jay Alexander, Nigel, like any of the people, like, to me, it just felt, it just put a bad taste in my mouth about her, because it's like, you don't care about people. You only care about yourself. Like, you're very selfish. Like, there's no heart in that. There's no, loyalty in that. And not to say she got to be loyal. They are coworkers at the end of the day. But then it became more than coworkers. And I guess that's why they say don't be friends with your coworkers. Don't be friends with your coworkers until y'all start working together. That's different. But these people were working together. And like, even when Jay Alexander said he didn't want to do the show, to see how Tyra just acted like nothing happened when they were filming again. Like, she hadn't spoken to Jay Alexander since he said he wanted to quit. And she started filming season 9 with them, and it was like nothing happened. It was like she turned on this actress, like she just became an actress. Like, it was like that's what I'm saying. Like, she was not in it this whole show. She was literally acting. You know, it's just something to think about. It's really sick. But you know what? There are no best friends in business, I guess. I guess. I don't believe that, but when I see situations like this, I'm kind of inclined to. Like, I don't know. I feel like there are best friends in business, but I just feel like maybe not. Like, y'all let me know what y'all think about that in the comments. But you know what? I want to also talk about how Tyra ended up being replaced in her own show. Like, that right there is why I titled this video that it's just bigger than Tyra. Like, it really truly is bigger than Tyra. The fact I didn't even realize that, because I ain't gonna lie. I stopped paying attention to the show. I never really cared about the show that much. I seen it a little bit when I was younger, because it would come on TV here and there. Of course, you would walk past and see reruns of things on television, right? And your mom might be watching it, whatever. But I wasn't watching America's Next Top Model like that when I was a kid. But of course, I knew who Tyra was, right? I binge watched it in 2020, but like, that was like low-key brain rot. I was watching so many different shows in 2020. That's when I started watching Real Housewives, and a bunch of other shows that I've grown to know and love today. But like, when I watched it in 2020, I didn't realize, because I skipped around. I didn't watch it from season 1 to like the end of the show. So it really was a surprise to me that they replaced Tyra with fucking Rita Ora. I didn't know that they replaced Tyra with Rita Ora. What the heck? But there again, indicative of the world we live in. That's why I kind of feel for Tyra, because Tyra knew at any moment they could replace her. Like, she kept ignoring, she said she kept ignoring the network boss of UPN. And he is the reason that the show essentially failed, I guess you could say, even though it was already on decline. Once he got rid of Tyra, and before he got rid of Tyra, they were doing a bunch of clown stuff. They were doing a bunch of clown things. And it was his idea to get rid of the 3 judges. He got rid of Miss J, Nigel, and Jay Alexander. And, Tyra literally knew she would be replaced. And I know that really hit Tyra hard, because it showed her that she had no control, which she already knew that, but it became more real for her. And that right there is, again, what I'm telling y'all about being a Black person in entertainment. Like the fact that she was eventually replaced as a host, it just shows you how far from grace this show had fell. It really does. And honestly, I just feel like, it had to end eventually. And it's sad that they took her baby away from her, essentially. And Ken Mock knew that was the end of the show. But, good. But you know what? It needed to end. And that's just all I feel about it at the end of the day. And it's like, I really can't feel too bad about it, because she knew what the stakes were. So what y'all want me to do? Okay, so now we can talk about Cycle 25, the future of like America's Next Top Model, and like my final thoughts of the entire docuseries. Tyra lives in Australia now. I didn't know that. I feel like I did kind of know that, because I did see when she opened up the ice cream shop in Australia. I just didn't know she lived there. So finding out that she's lived in Australia for a while now is actually kind of funny to me, because it's like she kind of terrorized these girls in the United States and then went on to Australia, which I'm not going to say Australia doesn't terrorize women either, because when I found out how big America's Next Top Model was, like, I didn't know they had all of these different, like, Africa's Next Top Model, India's Next Top Model. I didn't know that this was a thing. I had no idea. That was crazy, but I just don't see how a cycle 25 or 25th season for this show is gonna work. You know, I don't think it's gonna be healthy for us 25th season, especially if it's gonna still be being run the same way that it's always been. Like, it's not gonna be healthy for the modeling industry unless we're gonna be casting dark skinned girls and fat girls and girls that look different and like people that have, you know, different bodies. Like, if we're not doing that, we're gonna just fall back into those same beauty standards that were popular back then. Bring us your fat, bring us your ugly, bring us your dark skin. You know, bring us your people in wheelchairs, bring us your people that don't have you, bring us those. That's what we want to see. I feel like at this point we got enough people on Instagram that could become a model easily. If we're gonna bring a show on television and we want to, if we want to push the envelope, if we want to really like do the thing, if we want to really push the needle, like I feel like we need a show that really has truly diverse beauty. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need another generation harmed in the name of making good TV. So it's either they change the premise of the show and make it way more inclusive than it was. And I really don't even think that there should even be a winner. Like, this show should not exist. No, like, fuck it. Like, they don't even need to bring this show back. Because, again, like I was telling y'all earlier in the video, the modeling industry just should not exist. Like, think about what a model is. Literally, I'm modeling this freaking hoodie for y'all right now. It doesn't matter if where I got the hoodie from has a different model on their website. I'm modeling this hoodie for you guys right now. I'm modeling these glasses. I'm modeling this ring. I'm modeling this watch. Okay? I'm showing you how it looks on a person. The modeling industry doesn't need to exist because they don't want to show you how clothes and things look on people. They want to show you how clothes and things look on people that they find to be beautiful. Which, if you go look at the material, look who you see. The same type of bodies. You know, and that's why people like Rihanna, although she's with ASAP Rocky, who has said some colorist things about women, what she did really changed the industry when she dropped that Savage X Fenty and when she started doing all of those Fenty Beauty, you know, makeup color lines and all of the stuff for like dark skin and the white skin. Like when Rihanna did that, that woke something up in the industry because it's like, oh my God, like we can actually profit off this stuff, right? And it's like she did it in a perfect time where people were starting to get over Victoria's Secret. And it was like, oh my God, like maybe this is what modeling can be. And it was like, I feel like the modeling industry is seeing a way for them to profit off of bigger bodies and to finally be inclusive. And I don't feel like they actually wanted to do that. I feel like they really just wanted the money that they saw Rihanna get from it. And that's why I just feel like if we're not going to be giving multiple body types and multiple skin colors a platform to show their beauty, we don't need to give anybody a platform to show what's supposed to be deemed as beautiful. Because at the end of the day, everybody's beautiful in their own way. You know what I mean? So it's just like that's why we have these conditioned thoughts about what's ugly and what's cute. Because we watch shows like this growing up. We hear about it in the music. That's why Danny Lay got dragged for making that song about being a yellow bone or whatever she was saying. Like that's why these things exist. And that's why people that don't understand colorism, I really can't have too much of a long conversation with people that don't get the nuances of what it means to exist in this world, especially as a black person. So I don't think there needs to be any cycle 25 nothing. I don't think there needs to be this. They don't need to bring this back. They don't need to bring this show back at all. The modeling industry truly needs to be abolished. If we're not going to be inclusive, how y'all keep acting, we need to just abolish it. It's tired. We're tired. We are tired of being told what's ugly. We're tired of being told what we need to look like, what should look like this. Like it does stuff to people. We seen what it did to these girls. These girls looked perfectly normal. Like literally, they all looked perfectly normal. I can understand not getting a certain shot, but like y'all were making it seem like Janice Dickinson. Oh, I'm gonna go back to Janice Dickinson one more time. She was so evil. And again, Janice Dickinson had some conditioned thinking too because she was skinny as bones. And she was trying to put that on other girls because that was what was put on her. That's why I'm telling y'all, like, it's bigger than the women in the modeling. It's the patriarchy. It's the patriarchy. It's the being beautiful under the male gaze, you know, being beautiful to get credit from men and other women and wanting to it's just catty, it's sick, and I don't want this show doesn't need to come back. We don't need another America's Next Top Model, nothing. We're good. we're good. We're good. But yeah, my final take is like Tyra is both a victim and a villain. Like she was shaped by a violent industry, and then she helped feed others into the same machine. That's really my final take from it. Like she still hasn't fully owned everything, but I do feel like focusing only on Tyra is letting the system slide, and we need to be aware of that. I definitely think that needs to be a conversation. Because that's just letting them off the hook, and then it allows them to continue to do what they're doing, and then in the future it's going to be not Tyra, but it's going to be another person doing what Tyra did. You know what I mean? So that's what I feel about the docu-series. You guys let me know what you feel in the comments. Did this documentary change how you see Tyra? Let me know who y'all also think holds responsibility. Like, was it the producers, the network, the other judges, the modeling industry, the fashion industry, the viewers? I know a lot of people were talking about the viewers should be held accountable too. And then would you guys be okay with a cycle 25? Like, would you guys watch? Like, what would it have to look like for you guys to watch a cycle 25 of this show? Again, like this video if you enjoyed these topics. Subscribe to my channel for more videos and put that notification bell on so you know the next time I post a video. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at mostlydarius, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.